Matt and Friends Drink the Universe is proudly sponsored by the Poppins Travel Company. Whether you're traveling across the universe like us or right here on planet Earth, it's always a good idea to have an expert to help you plan your trip. For your travel experts, look no further than the Poppins Travel Company. They'll help you book your next adventure or vacation, and the best part is they'll do your travel planning for free. To schedule a virtual appointment with one of their highly qualified travel agents, visit their website, www.poppistravelcompany.com. That's www.poppistravelcompany.com, or call them at 407-494-4070. That's 407-494-4070. Hello, listeners. We're all here to have fun.
But we'd like to take a moment to encourage you to always drink responsibly.
Never drink and drive.
If you have a complicated relationship with alcohol or other substances and you want to talk about it,
you can call 1-800-662-4357 for support.
Thank you for listening.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Welcome to Matt and Friends Drink the Universe!
Welcome back, everyone, to Matt and Friends Drink the Universe Season 2. The theme for today's episode will be...
Rocket! Rankings!
That's one small sip for man, one giant taste for mankind.
Oh my lord, we are going like highbrow now.
You're right, man.
That was pretty metal.
We just put that together before you guys showed up.
That's awesome.
I want to talk about the fact that I hit that high note.
Three
Let's just
times.
Throw that out there. 3 times.
3 times.
Hey man, anybody can be taught. What's the? You can always teach a new. Or you can't teach a dog new. I don't know what I'm talking about. Something about new tricks.
I think I got called a dog. I think that's what just happened.
Well, you know what? I think that's a great hard transition to what are we doing here today, Matt?
Yeah, there we go. To blast us off into Season 2, we're going to try out a brand new theme called Rocket Rankings. You can think of Rocket Rankings as a 3-stage rocket launch. The liftoff is going to consist of a completely blind tasting. The second stage will reveal what we tasted in the first stage, and we will continue on with a semifinal round. And in the third stage, we're going to see which contestant goes the distance and makes it into orbit. We are going to be tasting and ranking bourbon today, and we have 8 bourbons lined up, so we're going to taste them head to head and go right down the line until we have tasted all 8.
Very cool.
Once again, I have some great friends drinking the universe with me today, all of whom might be familiar to you from Season 1, so let's go around the table and have them introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Season 2. It's Rob back again.
Chris, I'm back again as well. Glad to be here drinking some whiskey today.
I'm Dan, and I seem to show up when whiskey's involved.
Yep.
Good time to do that.
It's not a bad thing.
There's nothing
Not a
wrong
bad
with that
thing.
at all.
And Matt, I do believe that we want to let the people know that we are going to be trying to guess what whiskey, and we're going to have some points totalage associated with that. So there's 8 total. We'll read off the list here of what 8 whiskeys are about to be tasted. We have the Calumet, a Baker's 7, E.H. Taylor Small Batch, Weller, Larceny, Elijah Craig, Elijah Craig Small Batch, Wild Turkey, and Whistle Pig. So those are our 8 choices. We're going to be scoring these things head to head, but also trying to guess what brand is what as we move through the tastings.
Yep,
Yeah.
and scoring will be out of 25.
Out of 25
for a possible 100 points.
All right, we've got Dan pouring.
Yeah, number
All right.
one's poured. I can say that this is a very classic bourbon color, caramel, not too clear. But number 2, as it's coming out here, is a lighter in color.
There are, again, 8 bottles of bourbon, and part of the hope for all this is that we live to the end of this episode.
I'm going to say number 1's got quite an oaky nose to it, that old oaky nose.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of vanilla to it as well.
That's what I was going to say. Sweet
I'm getting
vanilla.
some sweetness,
Yeah.
but is it maple? Maybe it's vanilla. Maybe it's maple. I
From
don't know.
like Canada, eh?
Canada.
Mm.
All right, I'm ready
We're
to sip
diving
number
in.
one. Cheers.
Cheers.
gentlemen.
Cheers. Cheers.
Sláinte.
Ooh, that's nice.
It's very
Yeah,
nice.
I like that.
It's strong though.
Yeah.
We're starting off like with a real bang.
I feel
Yeah.
like it is a higher proof because there's that little bit of burn that you're
Yeah.
getting in the back. But man, I could have this on a Cuba Ice. This is very tasty.
My gums are tingling.
So you get a lot of brown sugar on that. I'd guess the proof on this probably 105, 107
Yeah.
tops.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
into the triple digits, I feel.
I'm pretty sure I know what this one is, even though I poured it.
Oh boy. Okay.
All right.
I'm getting
I'm
the
just
nose here
ready
on
for
number
Dan
two.
to spank us on all the guesses.
No,
all right?
I'm ready for
that's
Dan
most
to
likely
spank me
not
any
gonna-
day. Let me tell you. I just met the man.
It's going to take a lot more than whiskey to get to that point.
Oh, number two smells drastically different.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Woo.
Ooh.
I definitely know what this one is. I couldn't tell from the bottle, but this was these bottles. It's very much like one of these things is not like the others. One
Yeah.
of these things
Yeah.
is
Oh
not
yeah,
the
these
same.
are these
Yeah.
are on polar opposites.
Yeah.
So-
So this is going to be your one of these things really not like the others. It's a much drier whiskey. I won't say it like pulls all the sugar out of your mouth, but it definitely dries it out a little bit for me. There's a high rye content in this because it's got that nice little rye burn to it.
It's sucking the joy out of the first one.
Yeah.
It kind
Yeah.
of is.
Yeah.
It doesn't have
Ah.
any of the oiliness that I typically like in my bourbons or whiskeys that I drink. Like I want something that almost like coats your mouth and it's got like a butteriness to it.
That's
This
okay.
has
Yeah,
none of that.
I was about to say I usually use the word buttery for that when you get that mouth feel that just stays.
Mhm.
Your tongue feels like it's got something on top of it still, even though you've swallowed.
Yep.
Definitely number one better than number two in
Am
my
I sipping
opinion.
wild turkey?
100%
Am I sipping wild turkey in the second one?
I don't
No,
know.
this is the one of those not like the other things.
Shall we go around and give our guesses and our scores?
Yeah, and what I think we should do is we should always have the person who poured guess last.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So, Matt, let's start with you then. We'll go clockwise around so that we end up with Dan.
All right. Number one, I'm going with a 22.
And by clockwise, I meant counterclockwise. A 22.
22.
Okay.
I
And-
thought it
and
was
what do
great.
you think it is?
Oh, E.H. Taylor.
Okay.
I don't even know what to say to you right now because when we get to the E.H. Taylor, which this is not,
Ooh. Well, thanks for that spoiler. Now I won't
Sorry,
be guessing that.
Maybe I ruined it for other folks.
It's okay. It's all right.
That's all right. By
And number two, your score for number two?
yeah, host or not of this podcast, I'll be the first one to admit that my tongue is not a seasoned bourbon tongue. Like I'm enjoying the different flavors. I'm enjoying learning tonight.
Same.
Not where I thought you were going with that when we were talking about your tongue there.
No.
I was concerned.
Number two, I'm going to say 15.
I mean,
Wow.
that's respectable.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think number two was?
Well, I had said earlier I thought it was the wild turkey, but Dan said it's absolutely not the wild
Well,
turkey.
no, I thought you were saying number one was the wild turkey.
No, I thought number one was the E.H. Taylor.
Oh, right.
All right, then number two, man.
Any day now.
We don't have all night.
Yeah, I'm just going to say Whistle Pig because I'm not sure.
Okay.
Never had it before.
Okay. You know what? I'm just going to piggyback off of what he's saying right now because
Well
Go
done.
for it.
I think number two is also the Whistle Pig. I'm going to rank that, though, a 12 for me.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
And number one, I want to leave room for improvement
Sure. Yeah.
because it's the first one, but that may be one of the best whiskeys I've had in a long time. So I think that it's something that I've not had before. So my guess is going to be the Calumet, and I'm going to give that a 21.
Nice. All right. I'm thinking here, I'm along the same lines of you, Rob. I want to give this a high score, but I don't want to waste numbers, as they say. So I want some ceiling room, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm gonna also go 22 like Matt did
Okay.
on number one. Number two, I'm gonna go pretty low. So I'm gonna go a 10 on that.
Okay.
I really just don't like it that much.
Yeah. I'm looking at it and wondering if I should even finish the sip that I have in there.
Yeah.
Because I don't necessarily want to come back to it. But
I'll just take a bottle of number one and call it a night. I'm cool with that.
I was also
Yeah,
going to
really
give, or guess the first one being Calumet.
Okay.
I haven't had that either. So it's something that was really dark. So I'm hoping for that. Number 2, wow, I really hope it's not the Whistle Pig because that's the one I brought. And I don't remember it being that bad, but it was kind of lame when I had it. So I might jump on that bandwagon. That way we're all wrong together.
Getting on that pig.
All
yeah,
right.
I'm going to get on the pig wagon as well.
Woo pig suey.
All right, Dan, what you
So
got?
over to me.
Well, hang on one second. What did you give for the score of number 2?
10.
I didn't hear you. Okay. Cool.
So I've been drinking a lot of whiskey for a lot of years at this point, and I really feel like at this point I can kind of pick out different things with different mash bills, and different distillers use them. So when I say like number 1 is not like number 2, like I 100% agree that the number 2 is the Whistle Pig. It's a completely different originating mash bill and distillation time than what number 1 is, and I would be willing to bet the number 1 is the Larceny.
Oh, that was my second guess. Damn it.
In terms of scores, I'm going to say the Larceny is probably like a 19 for me. The Whistle Pig, I'm going to say it's an 18, but it's an 18 on a rye scale. Like, I mean, we're comparing bourbons to ryes right now. So like your typical bourbon is going to be a lot sweeter, a lot, smoother mouthfeel, whereas your ryes have a little bit more of a bite to them. They tend towards a little drier, but as rye whiskeys go, I think this is a pretty good one. I'm typically not usually a huge fan of Whistle Pig, but it is good for what it is.
Okay.
Very nice.
If number 1 is the Larceny, I will feel very stupid because I brought that and I drink it often, and I would think that I would recognize it immediately.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
But that tasted, maybe it's just in comparison to this other one, it tasted a lot better than the Larceny that I'm used to having. I don't know.
I mean, it definitely, you primed your palate because you went from that Larceny, which is that, again, it's a wheater, like it's got a lot of wheat in the mash bill, so it tends towards sweeter. You primed it, then you hit it with that rye, which is drier, and then you went back to that sweetness again. So you like almost overbuilt it at that point.
All right, gents, clear your cups. We're going to pour number 2 here. Round 2, if you will. Clear your cups.
As we all poured some extra into one cup. What do they call that? Isn't there a name for that when you like take a bottle and you pour a bunch of the same thing, you kind of let it sit a while?
It's called an infinity bottle.
That was it.
I have one at home. You know what? I should have brought some of that up with me so you guys could give that a try. It's literally like the bottle remnants of probably like 70 bottles of bourbon that have come through my house over the last couple of years. Whenever I get down to like that last little bit where it's like, all right, that's kind of a glass, but not really a glass, I usually just dump it in the infinity bottle.
All right, guys, pass me your number 3 cup.
Chris, did you happen to add those up just out of curiosity? Or
Yes, I did. Yeah, we have number 1 coming in at a total of 84 and number 2 coming in at 55.
All right, so number 1 is going to be moving on.
Math.
E equals MC Hammer.
We talking about numbers.
Wow.
Yikes.
I have no words for this season.
We played around with the drops in the off season quite a bit.
We're going with STEM school here. We got science. Now we got math.
Yep.
I don't know what T and E stand for. So, oh God.
If we're doing any engineering in here, I'm going to get real impressed real quick.
I almost engineered this all over
I was just going
the
to say, Jen did some engineering for us trying to hide the bottles.
Yes. Shout out to my wife who put the bottles in blind tasting
Son
number
of a
bags.
bee, everybody.
This one she wrapped in foil so we couldn't see the top.
The tin foil made it shoot all over my pants.
At least it
which
was the tin
is
foil.
unfortunate.
He's
Oh,
familiar
God.
with things shooting all over his pants.
Thanks.
Suck
Thanks
it
for
out
that.
of the pants.
Don't waste good bourbon.
I
Come
got
on.
Fremunda bourbon. It's from Australia. Bourbon from down under.
All right, so as Rob's pouring these, the first one has the lighter color this time. Not quite as light as number 2 was. And then number 4 is going back to that darker caramel color.
Why?
I didn't mean
Why,
to.
Rob? Why?
I didn't mean to.
Was that one number 2?
It's most of the bottle in my cup.
So much whiskey on my pants.
See, you've got them out of order here in comparison to what
All
Chris
right.
and I have got going on here.
All
Yeah,
right,
flip those around.
Number,
There you go.
Number 3 is the lighter color, as Chris was
Okay.
saying.
Correct.
Let's give that a sniff. Not getting a lot.
Definitely not a lot of punch to it.
No.
Nope. I'm going to go low proof on this one, probably in the 90 range.
Maybe even lower, yeah.
That's got a little bit of like wateriness to it.
Yeah.
I'm not loving it.
Ooh.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
It doesn't.
I'm not loving
It
it.
doesn't have a whole lot of burn either. I feel like I could drink this like straight for a while and then.
But I'm
try
not
to
sure that I
stand up.
like what's going on in my mouth.
That's
you
what
know?
she said.
It's just not much there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm finding it difficult to find the flavor in this. And maybe it's because
definitely-
we're overwhelmed already. Only 3 whiskeys in, but
I feel like it's pretty muted in comparison to even the Whistle Pig. I feel like had more of a distinct flavor profile than
Agreed.
that did.
It got to be a gobbling turkey. It has to be.
I'm not 100% convinced it's not the Calumet.
oh boy.
I feel like you're putting on
All
a
right.
master class over here, and I'm flying a plane blind with no windows. I feel like that's what's going on.
That's
okay,
the fun of this.
smell of number 4, again, coming back to something that I think I'm going to really like.
Wow.
I'm excited.
Caramel,
I like this one.
sweetness, vanilla.
But without the punch of number 1. Number 1 really had the punch, and this doesn't hit you as hard with alcohol.
This one, not as sweet on the taste. I do like it.
That's a lot stronger.
I will bet anything I know exactly what this is.
Well,
That was
my
definitely
friend,
stronger.
We're gonna find out, and if I'm wrong, I'm gonna be really embarrassed. I'm
We're
gonna
gonna
have to
start-
hang my head.
We're going to start with Chris on this one and go around. I will weigh in last.
All right. Number 3, I'm going to go with an 8. And I'm going to guess that is the turkey. I'm not sure about that, but you know, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. Number 4, I am going to go, oh man, I'm going to go with a 20 on that. And then I'm going to guess that is the Weller.
All right, so I'm really torn. I think that number 3 very well could be the Wild Turkey. I'm going to work under that assumption because I brought the Calumet and I liked it more than what I like this. So I'll say scoring wise, 13, 14. It really just didn't bring a lot to the table. I could see using that. I mean, if it turns out it is the Wild Turkey, it's Wild Turkey 101. It's $20 a bottle. You know, if you're making bourbon cocktails, that's your go-to. It's solid. Number 4, though, I'm almost 100% sure this is the E.H. Taylor small batch. And for me, like this hits almost all the high notes palate-wise. 23, 22, 23 score-wise for this.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. The first one I definitely think is the Wild Turkey. And small sidebar, when I went to the liquor store, I know one of the guys, and his name is Mike Murillo. Shout out to you. But I said to him, I want the worst bottle of bourbon you have to enter into this tasting. And he asked me why I hate my friends so much. And I said, I don't hate them, but I enjoy comedy, and I want to see what happens. This was not the worst bottle.
No, this is not by any stretch of the imagination the worst.
No, and that's the follow-up to the first part of the story is I looked at what was available and what could have been considered the worst bottle on those shelves, and I did think I like these guys way too much to do that to them. So I'm at least going to pick a brand that we like. I do think that 3 was the Wild Turkey, and I'm going to give that an 8. It tasted like it would go really great with Coke over ice, and that's what I felt about it.
That's fair.
This second one, I think was the Elijah Craig, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's definitely higher proof. I feel like it's higher proof than anything else we drank so far, which is what I'm conflicted about. A little burny for me personally, but I'm going to give it a 20. I enjoyed the flavor of the nose. Tongue is a little numb.
Okay.
It'll do that.
Over to you, Rob.
Yeah, I'm going to go number 3. My guess is Wild Turkey as well. I'm going to give that a 9. Didn't really like it. Number 4, I enjoyed it. I still think I enjoyed number 1 better from last round.
Yep.
So I'm going to go. Did I give number 1 a 20 or a 21?
You gave it a 21.
Okay, I will give this a 20. It is not a large margin. And I'm going to guess the E.H. Taylor as well.
Cheater. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I'm not guessing it because he guessed it. I'm guessing it because Matt's an idiot.
Yeah.
For those of you listening, Matt just launched water all over Dan. I'm not sure why, but
or how.
I was
Like, what the
going
hell?
to wave thank you, and then things went wrong.
The wires.
Sorry, sir.
The wires in his arm got crossed. Yeah, number 3, definitely the lowest so far at 38. Across the board turkeys. Number 4 was a close second to number 1 at 82. 84 versus 82.
All right.
Okay. Who's got 5 and 6? Let's move it on.
I got 5 and 6.
Who's taking a sip of that cup that everything's going into at the end?
Oh my God.
That was a very satisfying cork pop.
Chris, you and I are the only ones that haven't spilled anything on ourselves yet or spilled something on somebody else. So I feel like it's only a matter of
Wait,
time.
what did I spill?
Well, you got something spilled on you.
Oh, okay. See, well, that's not my fault. I'm the victim here, Matt. I'm the victim.
Oh my, quite a pour there, Christopher.
Trying to go just above the bottom line.
I see what you're doing.
Jeez. You're driving me home, right?
I am.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, let me rephrase that. If you're going to pour like that, I'm going to need you to.
Okay, moving on to number 6 on
Number
the pour.
6. The
He hadn't-
logistics of this we thought were brilliant, but not as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, turns out there's probably a better way to do this.
You just end up juggling so many cups. That's
Well-
that's the challenge.
Well, when you start drinking bourbon.
But by the second round, when the hand-eye coordination's not what it should be,
Yeah.
that's when it gets
You mean
real
when
tricky.
you spill water on somebody, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I'm taking a shower while on the
Okay.
podcast.
All right.
Both evenly colored this time, or at least very close, very
Yeah.
similar in color.
All right, I'm going for number 5.
Definitely a different nose on the two.
Ooh, yeah.
Mhm. Number 5 is decent.
We're back to that nice oily mouthfeel with
Yeah.
number 5.
Again, for me, it has that like vanilla smell to it. Something that's sweet, but not really like sugary sweet.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got that that higher wheat content that you typically pick up that sweetness. So it's got a little bite to it. Not too bad. I'd say 105, 107 proof, something like that.
And so, Dan, you're going to kick us off here if you're ready. I know we're still sipping and smelling.
What is this? Number 5 was the first one. 6 is the second, right?
That's correct.
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to say this number 5 is the Baker 7. It's got a really smooth mouthfeel on it. Assuming I'm correct, I'm a huge fan of that particular bourbon. I'd say this is a 20, 21, or 20, between a 20 and a 21. So we'll call it 20 just for,
Yep.
sanity's sake.
Number 6.
Number 6.
I didn't like that one as much.
Now, this one doesn't have that sweetness. This one feels like it's got a little bit more of a rye kick to it, and it doesn't have that oily mouth, like that buttery, oily mouth feel that, I really look for in like bourbons that I tend to reach for. I'm going to guess and say that knowing what was in the contest, I'm going to guess this one at the Elijah Craig. And I'm going to put this one at about 17.
Okay.
Matt, what do
It's
you
not
got?
bad, but it's not.
The
Yeah.
first one I also thought was the Baker 7. And I'm going to give that one like a 16 overall. The second one I think was the Calumet. And that is a pure and total guess based on the fact that I've never had it before. I didn't quite enjoy that one as much. So I'm going to put that one at like an 11.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you got, Rob?
Number 1, I'm guessing the Bakers. I'm also going to give this a 17. And I actually like number 2 a little bit better this time around.
Interesting.
I think number 2 is the Larceny. So I think this is the one that I brought. I think that the Larceny is an 18. They're very, very close for me, the two of them. But the number 5 has a little bit of an aftertaste that's a little bit oaky to me, like a little smoky oaky. And I prefer more of like a sherry, like sweet type of aftertaste in my bourbons.
I mean, if you're wrong, you can at least hang your hat on the fact that they're made by the same distillery. So,
You know,
there's that.
could be. What do you think?
Yeah, I was with Dan on this one, that the first one has that like buttery mouthfeel that I really enjoy. Didn't burn too much, but still had the burn, which I like. So I'm going to give that a 19. I'm just going to stick with the rest of the group and say that's Baker. I haven't had that before, and I don't recognize this. So the second one, I'm pretty sure I've had this before. And so I agree with Dan. I think it's the Elijah, which I didn't really like. It burned a little too much, which is rare for me to say because I really do like the single malt scotches, which really burn. But I'm going to give that one a 14. So with that, we have number 5 at a total of 72, not too shabby, and number 6 at a 60, which is kind of ironic.
So number 5 moving forward out of that one.
All right. And Jen booby trapped this one as well. There's a little bit of foil around the top. So
Yeah,
It's a good wife you have there. She hid the characteristics on the top of the bottles that might give them away as to what they are.
yeah.
My pants are finally drying, in case the audience was curious. The prolonged
that was a
pants
lot.
cheer.
That was a
That
lot
was
of
a lot.
cheering.
It's a pants party.
The audience
Party in my pants.
clearly enjoys your pants.
You know, I do have surprisingly delicious meat, as proven in season 1.
One time,
Drinkables.
one episode, one quote.
Hey, man, quotes matter.
Oh, definite color difference already in
Oh,
between
yeah.
the two of those.
Whoa, 7 smells like pure gasoline.
Ruh-roh.
I'm thinking number 7 might be the wild turkey.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. I don't.
I don't know. I'm gonna taste it.
No, it doesn't have that hard. I think we all called that wild turkey right. I'm going to be really surprised if it turns out we were collectively wrong on that.
I do not like number 7. It's almost got a peatiness to it. And
There it is, number 8.
okay, let's get to number 8. Now it seems that I tend to prefer the darker of the two on the pours. So let's see what's going on here.
You could end up just being a victim of the heavier char in the barrels. Like, that heavier char leaves a darker whiskey.
I don't like either of these. I'll be honest with you.
Really? Okay.
No. Woo. Okay.
Whoa.
Well, I'm gonna have to double. I'm gonna have to double guess here because I've done something wrong.
I think that's acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 7 as wild turkey, and I'm gonna give it a 9.
Wow.
And number 8, I will say is the Weller because I don't believe I've guessed that yet, and I will give the Weller a 13. I definitely like it more than number 7, but I still don't love it. It's kind of got that like campfire, too much of a campfire taste for me.
Interesting. Okay. All right. These are tough. I definitely didn't like the number 7. So I'm going to give that a 12.
Okay.
And just for the odds, I'm going to say that's the Larceny because I don't want to double guess.
I think it's okay to double guess as long as you're not doing it in the same round where you're saying both items.
Oh, both are the same
like,
thing. Yeah.
This is both the Larceny. Clearly it's not. Like,
These are both Larceny.
That being said, 7's not Larceny.
Okay. That's all right.
That's my guess anyway.
Well, I'm going to, number 8, I'm going to go with 17 because I like it. I don't like it better than some of the other stuff we've had.
Okay.
My only one that I haven't guessed is the EH. So we're just going to put that in that spot.
Okay.
Process of elimination.
All right, Dan, what? School us.
So I like number 7. Like I'm a little surprised that you guys don't enjoy it as much. It's not the best bourbon that we've had or best whiskey that we've had by far. I'd probably put it around as 16 or 17. I'm almost positive this is the Calumet that I brought, which was a Calumet 9-year. So it's an age statement whiskey. It's been distilled and barreled for 9 years. It's got a little butteriness, but then it dries out a little bit, and it doesn't have that Kentucky hug that they talk about where it like settles in between your lungs and just sort of like burns.
Is that a
little
sexual
bit.
move?
No, that's what they call it. Like,
Oh,
If
okay.
you go on the tours down there, they'll talk about like, the whiskey and like the whole experience and everything. And they're like, the Kentucky hug, which is that hot, warm feeling you get like right here between your lungs when you take a big sip of whiskey.
Number 8 does that to me.
And number 8,
It's like wham.
Number 8, this has got to be the Weller Antique, the Weller 107. So it's 107 proof. I'm fairly certain in looking at the bottles that we brought here today, this might be the highest proof out of all of them. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's the highest proof out of what I brought. For me, I really like this bottle. This is one that like people go crazy trying to hunt this down, and like, you can buy it for $50 in Ohio and, try to find it online. It's $200. So
Damn.
for me, like that price knowledge though doesn't really impact my overall enjoyment of it. Like it's still a 20 for me. It's not a 25. It's not like, this stellar thing, but I do enjoy a little higher proof and I think I might've talked about this when we were doing the new riff episode. My preference is that 110 to 115 proof whiskey. Like that's where I like to hang my hat.
Gotcha.
It just seems, and it was never intentional. Like, you start drinking whiskey, I wouldn't think, oh yeah, I want higher proof stuff. But I just found myself going back to the bottles that were in that proof range and really enjoying them. But that's my guess.
All right.
Round us out, Matt.
Since I didn't pick it, and it's the only one that I'm not sure about, number 7, I think, is the Larceny. I know that's wrong. I'm going to throw that out there
I
and
will
say,
eat my hat.
I
if
know
I hated
that's
the
wrong.
one that I brought.
I know that's wrong, but
It's not. You're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give that one overall a 17. I didn't
Oh wow.
dislike it strongly. I didn't like it real. It was nice. I thought it had a nice flavor to it. It didn't give me the Kentucky hug, which I
Right.
think involves 2 large men and somebody's cousin. But
Yikes.
It's a real down home experience for
Yeah.
you. Listen, if
And-
you've never been to a Kentucky distillery, you
Yeah.
need to go to Kentucky at some point in your life
Apparently.
and take a tour of one of the distilleries.
I
Meet
mean,
the
I'm
people
sure
that
you're
are
right,
there.
but if you want a true
It's-
Kentucky hug, I think you need to wind up at a truck stop in Kentucky.
I might now
So-
be
There's-
banned at
listen,
the border.
man,
so
I have absolutely met some of the nicest people on the planet in the state of Kentucky, and I'm not going to agree with you because I need to go back to Kentucky at some
I was
point.
going to say he clearly wants to go back.
No,
I
that's-
believe
that's
I'm no
fair.
longer welcome across the
Well,
border.
No, it's there. It is a completely different cultural environment. It's different experience, different
Oh,
pace of life. It's
I have nothing
fantastic.
against anybody from Kentucky. I'm
course
just
not.
I'm just trying to pick the low hanging fruit here. If somebody's going to throw me a softball, I might as
There
well
you
try
go.
to hit it out of the park.
Yes.
They can make a damn good whiskey. That's what we can all agree on.
Amen.
I'm going to also guess number 8 is the Weller. And I'm going to give that one a 21.
Listen,
I enjoyed that quite a bit. It's definitely a higher proof for sure.
If that's not the Weller, I'm going to leave you the bottle of Weller as a I don't deserve to own this bottle because there's no way.
Strong
it's not
words
it.
from Dan.
Very
strong,
strong.
strong words. Okay.
All right.
So, Chris,
Number
what is
8.
moving forward?
Moving forward, it will be number 8 with a 72, and number 7 was only a pithy 54.
All right, gents.
Ooh.
Now, before we get into the second round of tastings, why don't we reveal 1 through 8 what the brands are, and we'll taste not
Well, don't-
blind.
As we're
going
doing
forward.
that, let me quick recap. Our number 1 rated was number 1, which is ironic at 84. So let's reveal what that is.
Are you going to let everybody know who got it right at this point too?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah.
are,
All right,
yeah.
cool. So number 1,
Oh my God!
Wow.
number 1 is the Larceny. That was a sleeper.
It really was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, again, I said before we started, you and I both were like, this is a really good bourbon. We drink it a lot. And
Mhm.
we use it to mix. We drink it straight. It's just a good
Mhm.
bourbon. So
Yeah.
So, and I think it's important to note, these are in
Did anybody guess that correctly?
Dan.
My guy.
Yep.
So it's probably important to let everybody know these are in canvas bags. You can't see what the bottle is in there.
No.
And Matt's wife Jen was devious. She wrapped the top of the bottle in aluminum foil. I don't even think she took off some of the caps that were identifiable, so we couldn't see
She did.
what if there was a logo on it or anything. So number 2,
Whistle,
Whistle
Pig.
Pig.
All right. So we all nailed that one.
All right.
Okay.
That one came in at 55. Not the lowest, but it is the third to last.
Okay.
All
So
right.
that's technically number 6 then
Correct.
in the full list. Okay.
So the
I will-
Larceny advances. It sticks around.
I
Yes.
will reveal number 3. Gentlemen,
Come on, turkey. Yeah.
tis the wild
Oh.
turkey.
All
Gobble,
right.
gobble, gobble.
All right. So both number 2 and 3, we all across the board nailed correctly.
Okay.
Nice.
So
All right.
Dan holding a lead now because he's the only one who guessed Larceny correct. Number 4, my friends, is the E.H. Taylor.
Wow.
Anybody get that?
You and Dan both hit that.
Oh, okay.
all
All
right,
right.
all
right.
My
Okay.
apologies.
And this is another one. She hid the top of the bottle by sticking a wine bottle saver on
This one was
Yeah.
also number 2 overall.
Number 2 overall.
it. All right.
Okay.
Very good.
Cool.
Chris, would you like to reveal numbers 5 and 6?
All right. Number 5 here.
Number 5 is the
Baker. All right.
Baker 7.
Another one we nailed across the board.
All
All right.
right.
Okay.
So the moral of the story is if we listen to Dan, we did really well.
Well, no,
That was how that went down.
we didn't always, that's why
No,
I
there
wanted
was
us to rotate what we answered in.
Right, right.
So is Dan perfect as
so
of now?
far. Yeah.
You son of a bee.
Which
Damn.
which only means his odds of being totally right are getting better and better, which is ridiculous.
I am
Yeah.
very afraid.
All right, here we go.
So
At
we
this
were
point,
all
I'm
right
just
on
glad-
Baker.
Yep.
And was the Baker's the one that moved on out of these two?
It is. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Number
then-
6, Elijah
Yes.
Craig.
Dan and I got that one right.
Oh my
Unfortunately, that
God.
one was 60, so I think that was in 5th place.
Okay. And Matthew, number 7, please.
All right.
These are the ones I was really not 100% sure on.
Yeah, but you've got to have the
Except for the Weller.
you know the Weller, so
Ah.
that has to be the Calumet. So
Yep. That's the
Dan is
Calumet.
going to have a perfect score here.
That will never happen again. We could do this again
Wow,
blind, and there's
Dan.
no way.
Wow.
I am impressed.
I
Very
mean,
impressed. This was another one.
I should have double guessed with the Weller at the end.
There we
The
go.
Weller 107.
There's
so
the
that
Weller
sticks around.
107.
All right.
okay.
So
Really wish we hadn't unveiled these though. Well, actually, you know what? You guys are a great group to do this with because if you ask the super crazy whiskey guys, the ones that like drive around all over the place.
Yeah.
These are the two that they're going to go after. And by that, I mean the E.H. Taylor small batch and the Weller 107. And they're going to tend to ignore the Larceny small batch and the Baker 7. And that's a real shame because both of those are fantastic bourbons.
And I'll be honest, I don't know enough to be snobby about it.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna give
great.
these all a fair shake now that we know what they are heads up.
Yeah.
Do we want to do
I do feel really good though that we put Wild Turkey at the bottom.
I gotta hop in.
Nothing is worse.
I gotta hop in for a second. Dan just scored a perfect Mortal Kombat flawless bourbon victory.
You know what? Let
Okay.
Stellar sip for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Stellar sip.
Thank you.
Do we want to do 1 versus 2 and 3 versus 4? Or are we gonna do
Yeah, it'll be 1 versus 4.
1, 4, 2, 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's the way to go.
we're gonna have the Larceny versus the EH.
I'm still enjoying 8.
See, I am definitely biased, and I'm gonna actually ask that one of you guys pour mine while I turn around because in my head, I am a huge fan of E.H. Taylor. I love everything they've done. Like I've tried all their whiskeys with the exception of like the super rare stuff. So I'm not 100% sure that I'm gonna be able to give you a completely unbiased like take on it.
Chris, do you want to pour for Dan?
If you wouldn't mind, sir.
Whoa!
I almost spilled.
Oh,
That would have been bad.
We're good.
All right, I'm doing the Larceny and the EH, right?
That's
Yes.
correct. That's correct. And then you know what they are and hand it to him. And then before we taste,
Pour them both into both glasses. Or pour the wild turkey into one. And something else in the
before
other
we
one.
taste, let's let Dan taste
Yes.
and give scores, not knowing what's what. I think that that'll be fun Because-
Yeah.
because then he won't know what's going on. All right, Mr. Dan,
All right.
turn around and pick either of them up. We know what's what here.
So you guys should know that originally when Matt came to me and said, "Hey, I want to do a bourbon podcast," I offered to let him do it at my house, and instead of 8, we'd have been doing like 16. Like
And-
everybody would have needed to Uber home.
Listen, I have to get up at 5 in the morning and drive into work tomorrow.
That's a use.
So
of,
it would-
you call out sick the next day for that,
Oh, yeah.
or
okay.
you record it on a weekend.
Which one did you pick
well,
up
that would
there,
be
my
smart.
friend? Which
the
one did you pick
the one
up?
on the left.
All right, so I started with
Your
the one
left.
on the left.
Okay.
That one's, yeah, it's got a good. All right, if I had to guess right now, the one on my left hand is the Larceny. Don't say anything.
I'm saying nothing. Nothing is being said.
Silence.
All right, I'm going to the one on the right. Larceny E.H. Taylor.
Damn.
Okay,
man.
that's his guesses. But before
Yeah.
we reveal,
E.H. Taylor.
we need to know what his scores are.
I mean,
Before-
they're both great. Like I am a huge fan of Heaven Hill Distillery, which produces the Larceny. I like Buffalo Trace, which makes the E.H. Taylor. I give the E.H. Taylor the lead, but it's like by a point. Like,
Okay,
so we
so-
got like 19 and 20.
19 and 20.
Yeah, Larceny is such a solid product.
I'll tell
And-
you are correct.
You are
Am I-
correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So now the rest of us
All right.
noobs will get in.
I'm actually going to be a little disappointed if this comes down to Weller 107 versus E.H. Taylor. I brought some of these because I wanted to kind of highlight the distinct differences with bourbons that you could really get everywhere, which like the
These are-
Baker's 107 and
I'll be honest with you. I still like the Larceny more.
They're different though, which is funny.
They're
now
very
that
different.
Now that they're head to head, it's tough to pick because I like both of them for different
reasons. Yeah. So the Larceny has that sweetness for me,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And it doesn't quit on me. So for me, the Larceny is a 21. E.H. Taylor 19.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
it's super close.
It's interesting that you like the Larceny so much to give it like a 21, but you weren't a fan of the Weller 107 because they're both wheaters. Like, yeah, the primary element in the mash bill is primarily
It
wheat.
might be because
Well,
What's
corn
the
plus
proof
wheat.
difference though?
yeah, it might be because of the higher proof. Because I think the Larceny is like 90 or 92.
It's 92% or well, 92 proof, 46% alcohol by volume, and the 107 is 107.
107.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who would
So
have
yeah,
thought?
you're definitely like you tend towards the slightly lower proof, which there's a lot of people that really like that. That's where they hang their hat. They can pick out more flavors, like they can drink more.
I've
of
not
it. Like
I've not explored enough to really know. I'd say that this is my largest foray into the land of whiskeys.
See, now blame Matt for that because if he'd have brought the stuff over to my house and we'd have done the podcast there, we'd have been doing 16 instead of
Season
8.
3, bro.
Yeah, there will be a season 3.
We
It's
hope.
gonna happen.
And we
All
didn't
right.
even bring in the crazy whiskey
So-
I have that I didn't want to transport.
Chris, what do you think?
Something that wasn't
for
transport
me-
friendly.
I'm kind of sticking with Dan on this, where I like the EH slightly better.
Okay.
Like I said, I like them both, but for different reasons.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give the Larceny. I'm gonna give that an 18, and I'm gonna give the EH a 20.
Okay. All comes down to you, Matthew.
Yeah.
Did you give me numbers, Rob?
I did.
I'm sorry, I missed them. What were
21 and 19. 21 for the Larceny, 19 for the EH.
We're going to
All
need
right,
our
Matt.
listeners to double check those numbers against what he said previously.
I'm not. It was a 2-point difference.
It's completely fine.
I'm telling you.
Oh boy. Okay.
We have so much good whiskey in this room right now that it's
really
like,
do.
Yeah, I'm not invested at
The
all in
spoils
who
of war.
wins. It's more of a like intellectual thing where I'm like, oh, which one did come out? You know?
My palate, for what it's worth, amateur hour, felt like one of these had vanilla and caramel on the front and the other had vanilla and caramel on the back end. I prefer the vanilla and caramel on the front when I'm drinking these. I don't mind the burn on the back end because then I can just take another sip and kill it. So I liked the Larceny quite a bit. I'm going to give the Larceny a 21.
I really wish I'd have brought the barrel proof Larceny and I could have turned you on your head. Like
Next time, man.
that one?
Yeah.
I'm sure it kicks you in the balls, though.
You know,
It
it's
may.
not bad at all.
Really?
Ah, son of a bitch. I'm gonna have to bring it up.
All right,
Yeah.
Matt. What for
So
the EH?
the EH was really great. I didn't dislike it at all, but I got to put it down at least 2 notches. So I'm going to say 19 from
Tell me this is a stalemate.
That wounds me a little
Tell me
bit.
this is a stalemate.
Did we
It's
just tie?
goddamn close.
Oh,
The Larceny is going to win by 1 point.
wow.
Larceny small batch.
Wow.
Unseats. E.H. Taylor small batch.
I mean, for the price, man.
Well,
I mean, I don't
for
know what the
avail-
EH runs, but
Well, for availability.
Yeah,
Like, I
we-
mean,
we haven't-
you know,
we haven't
they're-
discussed
they're
that
the-
at all,
They're
but
about the
that's
same
so-
retail price, but like,
Oh, okay.
you won't find this in the store.
Yeah.
Like,
interesting.
it's when it gets sent to a store, it ships out like that day. I mean, MSRP is pretty close. What's this like? The Larceny's like $30, $32.
Yeah, about 30. Yeah.
Yeah, E.H. Taylor's 38.
It's such an amazing thing when you start to understand the demand for different bourbons.
Well,
I mean, I just looked at the PA bourbon lottery that we do up here because we can't find certain things, and I didn't win, and I'm a little unhappy about it. I was really hoping for my bottle of Pappy, but that's just not going to happen today.
yeah, I was really disappointed in the outcome there too.
And it's just absolutely amazing the amount of people that register for that sort of thing, that are willing to pay the amount of money. And then you look at the retail on some of those, or the resell on some of those bottles, and it's astronomical.
Well, I mean, you know, these two bottles are both, and I'm indicating the Weller Antique and the E.H. Taylor Small Batch. They're both around the same price when it comes to MSRP of like $40 to $50. But, you know, realistically, you see them on the shelf, they're going to be at $100. Easy. Like, it's not even close. I think it's pretty important to note at this point, we all had DD arrangements made for this
Yes.
evening.
Yeah, I'm purposefully not drinking a whole lot. I was telling the guys earlier, spoiler alert, this is recorded in the springtime, and I have horrific spring allergies. And
Yep.
as soon as I have alcohol, allergy meds are like, hey, it was nice to know you, see you later, and so I'll die. So I'm just sipping everything. I'm not really going too crazy.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. Got to get up early tomorrow. So
Rough life.
Not me. I'm drinking full samples, and I've got Chris
Yeah.
driving me home.
Dan and Matt are going in.
Oh, yeah.
Matt lives here.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's true.
Turns
Matt.
out Matt lives here.
My commute is across the hallway, which is very convenient.
Mine's about 10 minutes away.
What a cheater.
So Chris is going to have to listen to me ramble about bourbon for, you know, the 15, 10 minute.
I'm
whatever.
fine with that.
Yeah.
Dumb
All right,
question,
so I-
Dan. Which one of those was the Weller?
I'm going for the Bakers first.
That one. Thank you.
I really liked the Bakers.
Baker's 7. It's made by Knob Creek. You know, it's 7 years old. It's 107 proof. Interestingly enough, we got a head to head here, and we didn't set it up this way, but they're both 107 proof bourbon, and they have similar. If I remember correctly, what's in a Baker's 7? They have similar mash bills. Baker's 7 is actually age statement whiskey, meaning the actual distillation time is written right on the bottle. You know, this one that we're sampling today is 8 years and 10 months old, whereas the Weller, I actually don't believe there's an age statement on the Weller.
Well, I'm going to go right in and say that I'm enjoying the Bakers more, personally.
I agree with that.
I think Matt and I have similar bourbon palates
Yeah.
because I'm guessing that these two are going to like the Wellers more.
Honestly, this is a tougher decision for me than the last round, which was the small batch and the small batch Larceny versus small batch E.H. Taylor, because I feel like Baker's 7 is an incredibly underrated bottle in comparison to the Weller 107.
Rob, what do you got for your scores?
Baker's, I'm going with an 18, and the Weller, I'm going with a 16. They're all like super close, other than the Wild Turkey, which was clearly bad.
Yeah.
Everything.
Who brought that?
Who do you think? The guy who lives here.
I'm giving him side eye while I'm saying
Hey.
All right, I'll jump in here. I'm going to go similar to you, Rob, because although I really like the Weller, I like them for totally different reasons. So, like, it's hard to say that I like one over the other. But
I didn't realize how much nuance there was
in
this.
That's the crazy part.
Well, how many times do you sit down and try like 8 different bourbon samples
Never.
within the space
Well,
of
right
an
now.
hour?
Tonight.
The nuance thing is funny because we didn't have two bourbons that are so similar that it was tough to know that there was a difference. Like, again, if we had all of these back to back to back to back, I would know that all of them were a different bourbon. I wouldn't be like, oh, maybe 2 and 3 are the same thing. That being said, I'm going to go 19 for the Baker
Okay.
and 18 for the Weller.
Okay.
I'm actually going to switch those and go 18 for the Baker, 19 for the Weller. Yeah, it's interesting, though, because I'm fairly certain I scored these both higher the first time around. But when you compare them to each other, I feel like the standard is a little higher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can't go off of your old scores anyway because
Right.
we're doing head-to-heads, right?
Yeah.
We're not doing overalls. So, I'm sorry,
Right.
what was that number?
18 and 19. 18
The
Baker,
opposite
19
of what you
107.
had.
Yeah, exactly the opposite.
So
of what you had.
your two scores cancel each other out. So
Yeah.
Matt,
I'm gunning for a tie, is what I'm.
Matt is the tiebreaker here.
I'm going to say that the Baker's 19, the Weller 16.
Oh,
And the Baker's moves on.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Weller for me
So-
was burn on both ends, and I just felt like the Baker's had more flavor to it.
See, and
It had
I
more
That's
to it.
fair. That,
I-
honestly, that's fair. The Baker's has a very prominent flavor up front.
I like the burn though, and that's why I was saying like they're so different that I would drink them for different reasons.
Yeah.
I was going to say both being 107. One of those to me is I had a good day and I'm celebrating. The other is I've had a bad day and I don't like myself.
And if you want to have an I've had a bad day whiskey, I've got 132 proof Canadian stuff at the house. You and I should talk.
Yeah, I
that
have a,
turns into I'm going to have a bad night.
You know what? It's crazy though, because you drink that stuff and it's like, this is 132 proof. Like this could like light on fire. And I'm like, it's not that bad.
and I will say, Rob said earlier, I would put the Weller with a nice cube of ice. And so as you're drinking it, it would stay cooler. It would dilute slightly as you're drinking it. And I think that would really...
Yeah, I think it's important to note to everybody that we're just drinking these room temperature straight.
No water, nothing.
No mix,
Yep.
no water, no ice, like room temp, everything.
You know,
So
it'd be interesting to do a comparison. Like,
yeah.
Maybe that's something for down the road sometime.
And doing ice cubes, like actual water ice cubes versus whiskey stones, where it only affects the temperature versus
Ooh.
it starts to water it down.
what about like a Mythbusters episode
Yeah.
where, we've got
Dan-
like 3, and I'm a science man.
The open bottle, the open
Myth
bottle
boozers.
myth is a big one. For
That's
whiskey.
the other one, yeah.
Myth boozers.
Like,
Myth
oh,
booze.
there you go.
Love it.
Dan is our Jamie Heineman who
That's right.
drank all the vodkas and named all of them.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
yeah.
I mean, listen, we can set up control groups. Like I'm super into this idea.
Well, unfortunately, the open bottle myth is going to be a challenge because these lushes have managed to kill most of these bottles that are actually open at the moment.
Well, that's
boy.
fair. But
It's okay. EH does. We don't need to drink any more
so
of the EH.
so Dan, are you
No.
are you shocked that we've got the Bakers and the Larceny going head to head for the top dog in this particular head to head challenge?
I'm surprised, but I'm happily surprised because the reason that I brought the Baker 7 is because I knew it could compete. Like, I have, my personal collection of bourbon is probably 70, 80, 90 bottles, something like that, something crazy. But I brought up bottles, like I brought a couple that were like harder to find, the E.H. Taylor small batch one and the Weller 107. And honestly, those aren't the most hard to find ones, but they're kind of entry level accessible ones to people that are like getting into bourbon as like their drink. But then I brought the Baker's 7 and I brought the Calumet, which honestly, like the Calumet did not do as well as I anticipated it would. But I brought those because I felt like those would be ones that could compete. And you can find these bottles pretty much anywhere. There's no need to like really hunt down the Bakers and the Calumet. You can find them.
Well, that's really cool because, here we have Baker's and the Larceny very readily available going into this final round.
Larceny Bourbon's an interesting story. Do you know the story behind this?
I know nothing of it. I was just in a liquor store and I was like, I want to try a bourbon. I don't want to pay a ton of money. And this bottle looks kind of cool. Got it home and I was like, why have I never had this before? I was so impressed by it. And now I buy it all the time.
Well, Larceny is made by the Heaven Hill Distillery. It is one of their newer releases by Heaven Hill. The story basically goes that like there's a tax assessor that was assigned to the distilleries in Kentucky that was responsible for making sure that the distilleries paid their taxes. And, the Heaven Hill Distillery noticed at one point that there was a significant amount of bourbon that was missing from their inventory. And they decided to try to figure out what was going on with that. And, your viewers may realize I'm kind of mangling this story a little bit because I'm pretty drunk right now. But on a bottle of Larceny, there's a key shape on the bottle. And what that basically signifies is they figured out who had keys to the warehouses where the whiskey was aging and had accessibility to steal the whiskey. And it was actually the revenue assessor, the tax assessor that was stealing the bourbon from Larceny.
Amazing.
Or from Heaven Hill rather. And that's where the kind of the name came from.
Look, there's sometimes I think to myself, man, growing up in like the 20s and 30s was probably pretty damn cool. It's like you could just break into a place and steal a bunch of whiskey, apparently, and no one's going to know for like 10 years. And that's a pretty good life to me.
Well,
Yeah, they got away with it for a while.
I'm going to try the Baker's first.
A mental image of Chris in an old Ford with like 5 or 6 barrels in the back, puttering down the street at 20 miles an hour.
Old Ford. If you did it now, you'd make some money off that.
True.
Not that it's recommended. Don't do that.
Still like the Baker's, but I'm going to try to be unbiased here and give it a real shot against this Larceny because, God, it just smells so good, the Larceny.
You really hung your hat on that Larceny. I feel like if we do this again, you're not allowed to bring Larceny.
That's fine.
I'll bring Larceny barrel proof to really throw you a curveball.
Crap, man. Head to head. I'll tell you, the Baker's is giving this a run for its money.
Honestly, for me, the Baker's wins. And it's not because I brought it. Like, honestly, if I had to pick one out of the ones I brought to this tasting, like the E.H. Taylor would have been the one I picked, and that didn't even make it out of the last round.
All right. Chris, do you have a score already?
I do not. Hit me with yours.
I'm floundering at the moment.
You want me to go?
Go ahead.
All right. I like them both quite a bit. So this is really, really tough.
He's like 15s across the board.
Yeah.
And for the Russian judges.
15.5. No. I am going to give the Larceny an 18, and I'm going to give the Bankers a 20.
The Bankers.
Bakers.
Who brought Bankers Club?
I'm going to give the Bakers a 20.
Okay. So we're going Baker's 20.
Did you let your wife know how drunk you were going to be at the end of this episode?
No, I didn't.
For the viewers at home looking around the table right now, Chris is the only one.
Rarely ever would I.
Rob is pretty close, but Matt is sauced.
Rarely ever would I quote Jar Jar Binks for anything in life, but my tongue is numb.
I thought I was going to throw a Misa in there. And I was about to flip the table.
I think you automatically cancel your own podcast if you do a Jar Jar impression.
I wasn't going to do one.
All right, Rob, you're forced to answer.
Okay.
Gun to your head. What are you picking?
Larceny 20, Baker's 19.
Oh, you held true.
Okay.
I have to. It's so close. I would almost go 19 and a half on the Bakers, but I feel like that's
to put it on a razor's
cheap.
edge. Yeah,
that's cheap. So I'm gonna go 1 point between them. I like the Larceny. My palate holds.
Go ahead.
I like the Bakers better. I think now head to head, the Larceny sweetness starts to lose its allure to me.
Right, because you're putting it next to the Bakers.
Yeah. So I'm going to go Larceny a 17, and I'm going to go Baker's a 20.
I'm honestly
Okay.
right there with Chris. I would
Okay.
say 2019, or 2018 rather. I like Larceny bourbon. I like Larceny small batch. I like Larceny barrel proof. I like the Bakers better. Like in this
Yeah,
kind
I
of
put
like,
them
That's totally fair.
I put them
quasi-blind.
farther apart. You know, like in the earlier rounds, I put them really close to what they were against. But now the gap widens for me because I want more of just like the whiskey flavor. I don't need everything
So,
else.
I've
Well,
got
you're
to
in
know.
quality versus quality at this.
But
when-
I will say, for someone who's not into that, into the really heavy, smoky ethanol flavors of a stronger bourbon, the Larceny is the way to go. It's
The
it's a really
Larceny,
easy to
it's-
drink bourbon.
It's so accessible.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and that's the way I'll describe it. And maybe it's just because I have a very young bourbon palate. Like I've not been into it for a long time, tasting different things, and I feel like the sweetness helps me to kind of carry myself into that a little bit. I'm the same way with wines, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Like when I first started drinking wine, which I'm not a huge connoisseur of,
Right.
I would always gravitate towards sweeter wines because I was like, I can at least palate this, you know.
All right, the grand champion, drumroll Rob, please. The Bakers at 79,
Wow.
Larceny at 73, a very close
Oh, yeah.
call.
Absolutely.
I will honestly say I think it's respectable that the four of us, through samples alone, finished half a bottle of Baker's 7 while we were
Was
doing
that
this
brand
blind
new?
sample. I cracked the seal when I gave it to Matt's wife to put it in a bag. So
Hot
that gives you an
damn.
idea of how much whiskey the four of us have drank in the last hour and 10 hour and 15
three
minutes.
rounds, 4 samples apiece.
Well,
That's a
okay.
half.
so okay.
This
I-
bottle right here,
may
which is
I
the
ask-
E.H. Taylor, was right here when I brought it in the door.
Oh.
What?
So,
No.
Yes, it
Holy-
was.
All right, I'm
Granted,
sorry.
100%
like a
looked at
sixth
it.
of that is on my pants.
Oh no! Oh, that's $50 worth of bourbon on the floor.
Oh no! Oh,
Oh.
no!
Man, down.
Let's go up to a third of that on my
Alright.
pants.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay, you know.
All right.
There's
This
been
is
worse things
all
on my
your
pants.
fault.
Why is it all my fault?
It's your fault.
It's not my fault.
It's 100% your fault.
All right. So for the Bakers victory.
No, that's not the right.
That's
You-
the wrong button,
you-
drunkie.
See, this is what
Drunk.
happens when you drink 9 shots
That
of whiskey in the
could
space
not
of
have
an
been
hour.
more
Okay.
perfect to end the podcast. We're ending it right there. You no,
No, we're gone.
And on that note,
The boozy quote for this episode comes from Mark Twain, who said, "Too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough." On social media, please like, follow, and push all the buttons for us. That's Matt and Friends DTU at Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. For more information about the podcast, as well as links to our merch store, social media, and all the places you can listen to us, visit our website, mattandfriendsdtu.com. That's mattandfriendsdtu.com. Thank you again for listening to Matt and Friends Drink the Universe.